Welcome to Tech Talk Tuesday, another day in the life. I'm your host, Paco LeBron. This is the place to learn how to run your IT service business. Whether you're a one-person shop or leading a team for the journey, this is the place for you. Let me go ahead and introduce my co-host. We have none other than Rick Smith over at Renactus Technology. Rick, how are you today?
Doing good, Paco. Can't complain, can't complain. And I get the feeling if I did, nobody'd care anyway. So
That's the saying. Nobody listens. So what can you do? But I think this is going to be another one of just talking about kind of the daily thoughts that we have as IT service provider owners and trying to figure out this little thing that we call our business. But before we go ahead and move forward, I'd like to talk about my favorite thing to talk about, and that is TechCon Unplugged. TechCon Unplugged is back September 16th to the 18th at the Hilton Rosemont Chicago O'Hare. There you will learn from other like-minded business owners in panels and breakout sessions, key takeaways from partners and vendors in the space, and experience that one-to-one hallway conversations where we've been told the magic happens. Tickets are $299, but you could take advantage of our early bird price of $199 until April 1st. April 1st is the ultimate last day that you can take advantage of this deal. Just head over to techconunplugged.com and purchase your ticket. We will be having a lot of updates here coming up in the next week or two. We're going to have speaker updates. We're going to have agenda updates and a lot of new partners that have decided to join us in this great endeavor. So we're excited. We can't wait to see you all this September in Chicago. And we look forward to, again, seeing you there. All right. So, Rick, another week, another dollar. It's been one of those where it's from last Tuesday to this Tuesday. It's been business as usual. But I figured we could talk a little bit about a couple things that we've been talking about just from just shooting the stuff and going back and forth on just things that we've been dealing with over the last week and just a lot of stuff we've just been really trying to retool and figure out. But I think one of the things we were talking about earlier was mishaps with techs, right? And just really understanding on how to get your technology to work the way that it should. One of the biggest pieces for me is you think something's supposed to work a certain way, but somehow it just doesn't. And I can give you an example of something where the other day where, we're a synchro shop, we're setting up the recurring invoicing setup, we're setting up our contracts, but we forget to check the little box that says, apply this contract to everything. So we have discounted offers and an all you can eat plan for some of our stuff. And of course, because we love automation and the automation clicks through, there's this big bill that comes up to the client and it's like, hey, what the heck happened here? Well, it turns out we goofed up, right? And then there's this whole process and stuff. Have you had any type of deals where you've gone through some of that? Obviously, I'm just picking on Synchro because of my user education / the person behind the keyboard is the problem. Anything you've been trying to toy with or figure out over the last week?
Well, I'm going to say two things. One, anybody who was listening to the show last week knew that I sounded like I was a Cylon. My audio was terrible. And it just came down to me forgetting to check a box. And I actually ended up not connecting something correct on my camera, which screwed up everything. So I ended up, in the middle of the show, I had to switch and go old school. And I say old school, but put on my my USB headset with a microphone, and that worked out fine, which also tells you that sometimes the super tool you think you got is not necessarily the greatest, that the old school way or the old reliable will get it done. So that's one of the mishaps I had that drove me crazy all week. But another thing, and again, not to pick on Synchro, but we had kind of a similar issue where a client clicked an old ticket to send, clicked a closed ticket to send a response. Why they chose a ticket from November when they had about 5 other ones in there, I don't know. But for somehow when that opened and I answered the question, closed the ticket again, it sent an invoice. I'm still not sure yet why they got an invoice, because their invoice was closed. They had already paid it. For some reason, she got an invoice, so she got confused and called, trying to figure out why. Basically, what she billed. Basically, wanted to know if she was billed for asking me a question in the email. So it's just one of those things where we just got to get in and tighten up, make sure that we got all the hatches closed or buttoned down, and know exactly what's supposed to happen. Because We rely on tech, which is what we do. We set up the tech, rely on tech, wanted to automate, make everyone's lives easier, but we have to make sure it never hurts to double check, triple check to make sure you've checked every box, and in the old school way of saying crossed every I, dotted every I and crossed every T.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've had plenty of those where like, the workflow isn't working, right? Like we have emailed a ticket for our PSA per into Synchro, and for whatever the life of me, we cannot figure out what the heck is going on where it's attaching to a certain person. It'll connect to the wrong contact. And this is where, we're harping on all this because there's an important lesson here. And that is, don't bitch and complain about what's going on with the tech. Leverage your vendors. This is why they have support lines. This is why they have numbers, right? So I've reached out to them. They gave me the email. It's on my own fault that I haven't like done a lot of the troubleshooting or figure out some of the things that are going on. And I'm sure it's another user error, but this is where it goes into the point of you really got to leverage your vendors, right? Like I think we get to a point where we are purchasing things and we're hoping everything's supposed to work, but when they don't, we can't take the time out to research it. But we're clear to go ahead on Facebook and we're clear to go ahead on all these other
Mhm.
mediums, or even drastically starts trying to look for other solutions instead of understanding where we're at, right? So, you got to leverage your vendors. You got to figure out where you got to look at, see what you can do, and that's how you get better. They got a lot of resources for you and stuff like that. But the biggest piece on that, kind of going on vendors, is you know there's the shiny object syndrome as well, kind of shifting gears, right? And the process of trying to figure out how do you improve your stack, how do you go into putting more things inside. I have my own views on some of these things, and this is actually a big piece to thanks to Jeff, before, when very early on, trying to be something that I wasn't at the time, being this quote unquote big IT service provider, and really just draining my resources. But before I go into that topic and stories, Rick, what is your thought process when trying to introduce a new tool? And do you suffer from shiny object syndrome?
I do, and I'm not gonna shy away from it. I do suffer from that. Now, we do these things under the guise of doing what is safe, or what is the best choice for our business. Like what how can this help me? Oh wow, this looks great. It can help me. It can help me. Without really putting into practice or thought, will I really use it, or will it really be used? Now, and that goes twofold. For us as techs, it's nice to have these things and say we have them, but what I've learned is that time is my biggest enemy. When you take on a new tool for whatever reason, there's a learning curve involved with that. There's training, there's understanding, there's then understanding how to implement that into your process, into your stack, into how your business functions. So if you don't have the time for that, or the resources, whether that be another employee or someone else you just put in charge of that and say, hey, this is what we're trying to achieve, can you make this work? Then you really find yourself, and I'm sure I'm not the only one who's done this, find myself paying for a tool 6 months, 8 months down the line. I say, hey, I don't even use this thing. Why am I paying every month for it? So, that is the quote unquote, being attracted to the shiny object. Because in theory, it's great. It's going to help my business, is what we need. But what I am learning is two things. This goes a little bit back to what we just talked about, but I am starting to now leverage my vendors a lot more. You know, we expect for our customers, when something goes wrong, for them to reach out to us. They will reach out to us, tell us the problem, and they expect us to solve it. It's the same. We are clients, partners of our vendors, and we should expect the same from them. So when something's not right or we need answers, that's where we go. And one of the things, and we've had this conversation a little bit now. One of the things I'm learning, you can have the best product in the world on paper, or it looks great, but if you can't support me, then I don't need you, because you're useless to me. When something goes wrong, you can't help me, and therefore I can't help my client. So,
Right.
we're getting more of that. I don't necessarily, need every new tool that comes out, but I'm doing a better job now, or I have a more streamlined process of evaluating my vendors and deciding if that is a business I want to do business with anymore.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, I think exactly like you mentioned, there's so many things you have to consider when implementing a tool or improving your stack or consolidating or rip and replace and things of that nature is um one of the big things that we never really take into account is how much time it's going to take to do any of those actions, right? And especially if you're a one person shop, that's a lot of like details and stuff that you have to take on to really implement. I think the biggest piece for me was, this undertaking that I took on consolidating quite a few of my tools over to Acronis, and the amount of time and coordination that it takes even just to delegate to my team. It's a lot of stuff. For not only are you worrying about, replacing, installing, verifying, making sure all the stuff is set up properly, and that's where you have to make sure your processes are all set. I had to actually structure my entire OneNote my old process in OneNote, so that I can actually get a good project piece going on in a project software that we're going to end up using, so that we can make sure that we actually consistently deliver and install and go for everybody else. But then that's where you have the instances of, have you ever had a computer that you've logged into that you hadn't logged into a while, and you find that an old backup software is still installed, or that you have an old AV that you happen to miss, right? Because automation sometimes doesn't work, right? And this is all the spot checks and QAs and stuff like that. The other thing that I would implore everyone, and this is a lesson that Jeff taught me very early on, was don't go beyond your means and only get the tool when you need it. So back in the day, when I first started, I thought I was big stuff. I got the big virtual office to make myself look like I had the downtown presence before I actually have an office here in downtown. I had the answering service to seem like I had that going on. I had the nice website that I purchased from a website vendor in the industry. What else did I do? There was like a bunch of all these tools that I had all together, and I was still working my part-time job, but what ended up happening was I was funneling all basically diverting my resources to the business. And usually in the beginning, you have to, put in some skin in the game. Like, there's no way around that, unfortunately. But it got to the point where it was like, I was literally making dead even and nothing was happening. And we were trying to figure out, okay, well, what's the best way for me to absolve this? What is the best way for me to figure it out? And really what Jeff taught me was that you don't need all that stuff just to prove that you're whatever, right? You want your nice, concise, close of clients. You don't need to do any of these extra stuff, and get the tools as you need it. So I ended up dialing back and went to Tech Site Builder with Matt into my website versus the other website provider. I ended up consolidating on some of the offices, because I had 4 virtual offices at the time, like an idiot, because I thought I was trying to span off as like a chain, because we were doing computer repair at the time. Consolidated all to my one office, and really dialing it back down. And yes, it sucked for ego. But as another friend of mine likes to say, Victor Antonio, your ego is not your amigo. So you have to make sure that you keep it together and really drive into what you're trying to do. The other piece too is and everyone hears me say this because it annoys the heck out of me, is it is okay to be frugal, but don't be cheap. There is times where you have to make the investments, and you don't want to be forced to make the investment when you absolutely need to at the last minute. You want to guide yourself into it, right? So there is that mindset that you have to really understand where you're going through in this journey as an IT service provider. Is, are you having a lifestyle business, or are you expanding the scale? Two very different mentalities and two very profitable and very great mindsets to be in. But you have to determine where you are before you take in the information from other sources as well. Because if you listen to an industry expert that says you need to do X, Y, Z, and you're trying to make it, you may just be looking to do this as a living, and you don't need all those extravagant extras going forward. Now, In turn, I will say customer experience is everything. And you do want to make the investment on doing that, but you have to want to do that with enough research to show if that's going to make a difference, because we may feel that we want to do something great for our experience for our customers, but there's a chance that our customers might not give a damn. And that's really the biggest piece of it all, is that you're spending all these nice and bells and whistles, and you're not getting the drive that you want. But there is the opportunity of consolidation that may help you with that piece as well to drive forward. So I think the reason why I'm going through this is because me and Rick literally just had this conversation before we went on the air on some of the things that he's looking to do, and the ability of, consolidation is great, and you have to be on the lookout for other vendors, but you have to make sure you have the mindset of, like, where all my other peers and colleagues have fallen into, is they've gotten the shiny object. You pay for money of this tool, it's months later, and then you didn't get a chance to really utilize it, and then you're thinking, well, why am I paying for it, right? I even canceled a vendor that I signed on with. They gave me a lead time to start with them. I think it was like April, and I'm still in process of migrating all my other tools. I don't have the capacity to bring on this tool, even though I got a great deal. But it makes no sense for me to pay 3 more months of that deal when, and ongoing, it's not going to be that much more for me to just enroll when I get back to them. So that's my spiel for today. As I was going for on the process of finding through technology.
But it makes perfect sense. And again, I'm going to go back to this, and I've been guilty of this, up until the beginning of this year, of saying, hey, I want to implement this. I'm going to do this. And I don't, then 5 months later, I'm like, man, I never touched this thing again. And then, but meanwhile, and we think about this and we say, oh, it's only $50, only $75, only $100, only $200, only. But those things add up throughout the year, first and foremost. So as a business owner, it's not an efficient way to do business. That's essentially throwing money out the window, right? If you're paying a vendor for a product you're not using. Now, the other end of that is what I've started doing too, is I've learned the vendors have some leeway, right? So the way if I'm introducing anything into the business now, the vendor's going to have to give me a little more time. And I'm going to see then if taking that time, I can implement this product in my business, and then does that product actually do what it needs to do for me, or do all the things I hoped it would do for me. So, this is one of the things where, I don't know, this is a personal choice of Rick as a business owner. I don't do long-term contracts with any clients. I don't force them into 12, 24, 36-month agreements. Not at all. I want them to do it month to month. I feel like I need to earn their business. And I also need to know if this is a client I want to do business with. And I want the freedom to, if this is not a good fit for me, to be able to walk away. Yep. And so I want the same freedom with our vendors. I know a lot of them don't want to do that, or it might cost you a little more to do that. But in my opinion, it's worth it, because again, I'd rather spend an extra, $20 a month and find out in 4 months this is not working for me, than saving $20 a month and then I'm locked into something for the next 36 months. Right. So, and then I'm pushing back. Hey, I need some time to figure this out. One of the things you and I, we always joke about, we have this constant conversation, is, hey, I found a new this, and we used to do it a lot. I will admit, we've gotten a lot better, and trying to stick with what we have, and letting that work. But again, I'm trying to ease some things in, like, our goal here, we're doing a lot more marketing, and we plan on bringing in a lot more customers. So one of the things is, our old customers, it's going to be harder to get them to do things the new way we're trying to implement, but we're going to get them there. But the newer customers, you start them there, and that's where that's where you stay consistent, because that's what they're used to and that's what they know. So that's the goal of finding certain things And it's all in the name of streamlining. Sometimes, our experience has been you can streamline or think you're streamlining, and you've actually doubled or tripled the workload that that you thought you would. But it's all it's all, I don't want to say trial and error, but it's all, taking a shot at certain things that, but it's being smart, being disciplined about what you're doing. And there has to be a real why, and there has to be a real need, as opposed to just a want. I tell my kids all the time, there's a strong difference between a want and a need. And you should focus on your needs first.
Right, right. No, I mean, there's so much to unpack on what you said too, as well, because you had hit quite a few things, right? I think there is, like you said, like, I mean, it's been like 5 years we've known each other, and we've gone through many iterations of what our stack has looked like, and conversations, and what does it mean, and how do we figure it out, and all this other stuff. But I think the biggest piece that people should understand too is that everyone always looks at tools to leverage and automate, right? And if you're a solo person on your shop, that's probably going to be the key piece for you, right? Because you can't afford additional manpower, additional personnel, you can't additional staff, or maybe you don't want employees, right? And you don't want to outsource, you want to keep everything in house. But you're going to get to a point where you have a capacity issue. Like, that's just what's going to happen, whether it's scheduling, whether it's your own personal work-life balance, the hours in a day, which goes back to the scheduling piece of it all, and just the urgency of issues as well that come up trying to figure that piece out. I think that you have to make a decision where, are you okay with where that's at, right? Or you got to figure out and how to finally tune that piece so that you can go ahead and get the ability to move forward on a capacity issue and leveraging tools to do that going forward. Now, what I mean by all of that is really that you may be spending so much money on tools to try and help this, but you're still at a capacity issue where you can divest in some of those tools that you may not really need and get a person, or improve and add additional hours to the person, so that it can help alleviate you, so you can expand and get into other aspects of it as well, right? Because in my opinion, I'm trying to scale, right? So we just hired 2 additional people. Hopefully they're not watching because they haven't been told yet, but they're going to be coming on here in the next week. So we're improving our ability of scaling that piece to delegate tasks and duties that I'm doing, and what I've done to realign my team so that we can get the customer experience even better, right? So my personality is, I'm going to throw bodies as much as technology that I can for everybody, but some of them are going to need a little hand holding too, right? And really just trying to figure out that whole piece on that is really what I want to go to, is that don't think that technology will solve your output as well, because it can, but there will be a threshold that it'll reach the max, and you got to figure out what you need to do. Sometimes it's outsourcing, sometimes it's bringing internal, and sometimes it's, all right, I don't want to go past where I'm at. Now, how do I maintain my Jeff had a phrase for this. What is it called? Margin of life. So, in trying to figure out how to get that back into there. So that's my spiel for shiny objects and vetting and getting in text in there. But, you also talked about customer experience, and something that I kind of dealt with this week is how do you communicate to your clients, and in reverse of what is an urgent issue, and how can they make sure to jump in front of the line so that they can get their thing addressed?
Well, everybody, and we have to understand this, right? Every client thinks that their issue is, to them, their issue is urgent, no matter what it is. To us, we know we prioritize it. Now, one of the things I've learned is you have to give I saw this in the tech tribe. One of the things they do is list out a list of potential problems and how long it's going to take to get, how long we're going to take to get to that problem. If it's something, this is what we consider immediate. And if you can't get into you lost your password or whatever, that may be a level 2 or a level 2 problem. Whereas, your internet's down, that's a level 1 problem. We're going to try to address that immediately, or things like that. So that's one of the things we have to do a better job of communicating to the client, because the client, all they see is this: hey, I got a problem, and I called you, or I emailed you, or I text you, or I put it in your portal, or whatever they did, and it took you X amount of time to solve it. And first of all, we have to get them to understand that, I forget, poor planning on your part does not constitute an emergency on mine, right?
Right.
But
Right.
but we have to be, reasonable with this. So I think one of the things we may want to do, and I'm not going to say the customer is going to really go by it, but some kind of list of, hey, this is how we prioritize things. I'll just be honest. I had a meeting this morning at 9 a.m. Customer calls, then texts, and this is one of the problems because it's an older customer, so they have my cell phone number, which is the big no-no. And it's like,
oh yeah,
I need to access my cameras. I'm saying, okay, open your app. That's my response in the text while I'm on a Zoom meeting, which is rude. I'm texting while I'm trying to pay attention to someone else. Well, what's the app? And in my mind, I got 20 different clients with 20 different camera systems. Like the one I put in my response is the one I put on there that you and I went through, and I showed you how to access it. That was my answer. And and finally, I'm like, hey, I'm in a meeting. I will reach out to you as soon as I'm done. 20 minutes go by. Are you done yet? I'm in a meeting. I'll reach out to you as soon as I'm done. I just re-replied what I was saying. But again, to this client, they wanted to access the cameras. That was an emergency for them. For me, I was like, I provided you with the means to do that. And on top of that, I sent you an email explaining to you how to do it. So, do a little research, figure it out, and solve the problem. But for the client, again, the client thinks that's majorly important, and nothing else you're doing is more important. So it is, I don't think there's an exact science. I'd be glad to entertain from anyone out there, in any ways they do it, that they see, that they've had success with it. But I'm thinking that the best way I've seen so far is really to come up with some kind of priority list that each one of your customers has, and that at least gives them an idea of how long it's going to take to get back to them. One of the, and depending on your size, a lot of us, we've conditioned our customers to hey, I'm going to give you an immediate response, or I'm going to give you an 1 hour response, whatever it is. I always put, and I think I got this from Jeff, I put best effort. I don't say, there's no SLA that says I'm going to get back to you in 60 seconds or 60 minutes. I try my best to return as fast as I can, but it's my best effort, because I have to prioritize what your problem is versus the other 60 clients that have problems at the same time. So right. It's just honestly, it's just an ongoing process.
No, I mean, I think I share your frustration as well, right? Because I mean, I've kind of done a better job of making sure people didn't have my number directly. That was something I just learned from when I was in corporate America. So I ended up using, so what's a funny story, my direct VoIP line was actually the old company number before I ended up switching it over. So what I've done is that through that number, I've actually ported it over for every other VoIP system to be my direct line to me. But obviously it's an app. I can shut it down whenever I want and turn off the scheduling for it. But you hit a very good point where clients believe that and this is how I learned in as running the help desk at one point, was their severity is not our priority. So they may feel the issue is severe to them, and it might be that is a very severe issue, but to our list of priorities, they are not. And I actually had a big issue with this past week, where we had a repeat offender over and over again utilize our priority system, because the president had said, look, we're having some issues. Communications are not coming across as soon as we'd like. Is there a way where we can distinct which one is an urgent issue and which one is not? And I said, well, this is what we prioritize on. This is your severity. This is how we do. If we see this in the subject line, we will approach it, but you have to just let me know, just communicate to the team. Please don't overuse this, because then it's going to not have the value and worth that we see coming from your business. And she said, totally understand. And we'll go from there. Well, of course, as I knew, one of the managers there continues to keep sending in a priority issue that's urgent when it's not. I mean, and you're talking about anywhere from a printer's not working and there's 7 others in the office that can work, that they can print from. Someone's remote software costs too much, so they want to switch to another one, and they need to get this done because they're going to be monitoring phones soon. So it's stuff like that where it's like, this is not a showstopper. This is not an urgent issue where this is preventing you from doing your job. So this should not be a high urgent issue. You're just flagging everything now as an high urgent issue, which is going to desensitize my help desk and my level 1 and level 2 team. And that's a even bigger issue, where if my team is not acting accordingly to the priorities, there's an issue. And the issue normally stems from that. So I share your frustration. I had to have this conversation with the president again. She understood. She was going to talk to this rep. But the problem is that, we try again. I implore those who are listening to write in at info@mspunplugged.com, or even just submit a comment on the website, mspunplugged.com. Is how are you handling, the preface and telling your clients what's urgent and what's not, right? You got to have a great support system over at the client. In my opinion, you got to work with the office manager. You got to work with a partner there. I had a client one time where they told me, we are not doing that, and you need to turn off the spam filter, because we are not going to go into our spam to see these emails. That 30 seconds to click that scan to see the quarantine emails is too much. Turn it off, and turn it off now. And so I had to call the main partner of the firm and said, look, your office manager and entire team said that they do not want this. You are in the real estate industry. It is negligent for me to turn this off for you when you're managing all these people's details for their properties, and you're communicating to title companies. Your industry is one of the highest ones being impacted for phishing emails, and they're telling me to turn it off. So you tell me what we want to do, because I cannot move forward with you if this is going to be the behavior. He says, I will talk to them. Did not become an issue after that. So I think having that buy-in and having who your support tree will be in your client and identified is very important. But again, you have to, like you said, have it written out and explain to them, right? Or even like what I'm going through right now, I've actually just restructured my entire onboarding process. So I'm actually going back to all my clients and re-onboarding them again. And this is going to be with communication of introduction to their rep, how to properly communicate to us. There's going to be a newsletter tied to this. So we're kind of re-educating them, kind of how you should do your security awareness training every year. Mm-hmm. This is kind of what we're reiterating again to them, just so that they have it fresh of mind. And the hope, fingers crossed, is some will stick, and then we'll have a better output that we can get through on what's urgent and what's not.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. And we actually were talking as we we're introducing some of our old clients to our new platform. And it's the same thing. We're just going to give them that whole experience all over again. That well, they never really got it the first time, but they'll get that real onboarding experience from us this time. Having the information to do everything. And I think that's a great idea. And it doesn't matter how old the customer is, because things change, processes change, and we got to try to get them to buy into the new process. And the whole point of it is, it's really for it's for our benefit, but it's for their benefit as well, because I don't go into anything thinking, hey, it may be a little harder for the customer, but it makes it easier for me. It's got to be a give and take. And it goes back to something else when you talked about the spam filter issue. We have the same issue with people not wanting to use 2FA, right? And it's I don't want to take the extra step, that takes too long, or Yeah, but it's like, this is unnecessary. It takes you an extra, 15, 20 seconds to get what you need, but it's necessary in the grand scheme of things. And I always address it to, again, you go to whoever is the decision maker, whoever's the boss or paying, and it's like, hey, this extra 10 seconds could save you 10,000, 20,000, $60,000, if you're hacked. So you tell me
Yeah.
what's more important, the convenience of saving 5 seconds, or, the convenience of saving 50 grand. So, it's again, what I'm learning is my customers, or all of our customers, they're with us because they trust us. They don't necessarily know all the tech, right?
Yeah.
They could, they could know the difference between a bit defender and a solutions granted, or X, Y, and Z, or what an EDR versus a AVR is, or whatever. But they trust us, right? So,
Right. Right.
um, and as long as we're open and honest about what we're doing, why we're doing it, and what the consequences are, for not implementing something, 9 times out of 10 you get buy-in. Of course, you get the "this will never happen to me" clients, and I'm learning now. I've made the decision. If you're going to hold me responsible, whether I do it the right way or I do it your way. So if you're not going to do it my way, and at least I could go and try to defend that, and um, know that I took every step that I could, or that I thought it was possible, to protect you. And then something goes wrong, then I'm gonna be there fighting, spending my time. But I am no longer going to keep clients who, for whatever reason, don't want to meet minimum standards, because it really is a liability for us, and it's a huge headache.
Yeah.
So we just, it's as we talk about this is more so outside of the tech realm, and more so in the running your business, the running your business category, that as I'm growing and learning, I'm becoming stronger and more defined is the wrong word, but more determined to make sure that I protect the business, and I protect their business, and I do it the right way.
No, makes total sense. No, I totally agree 100%. Um, I think there was one other thing that we were going to talk about, but I think I'm going to leave that for the next episode. We did start a little late today. We're going to keep it as a short episode. But next week, we'll probably talk a little bit more about scheduling and trying to figure out your scheduling situation,
Mhm.
especially with my current problem is I have a ton of office moves. I have a ton of office moves, clients that are expanding, that have been acquired, um, partnered with others. So we're seeing a lot of just internal growth with our current clients, along with like new clients that we're trying to bring in. So it's been madhouse right now. So we'll talk a little bit more about that next week. And again, we invite you, if you want to be a guest on the show, head over to mspunplugged.com, fill out the contact form, email us at info@mspunplugged.com. We'd love to have you on, either in a setting like this or in an interview, just to talk a little bit more about your business. We're always interested in hearing more techs and kind of what your perspective is in this industry. But yeah, Rick, I think we'll kind of round it out here. Any lasting words before we sign off?
Well, everybody knows my end of the show spiel, but actually, I want to talk two things. First, you guys probably noticed Paco and I have been bouncing around on the time, that when we do the show. Um, this is not official yet. I don't know if I have permission from Paco to say this, but
You
I,
got the check mark.
I think we're gonna be moving the Tech Talk Tuesday to Tuesday evenings. It just works out better. And we have this might sound funny, but we'll have more things to talk about after that long Tuesday day that we've had, than when we get in the evening to talk about. But I think it might work out for the audience as well. So what we will probably be doing is moving Tech Talk Tuesdays to Tuesday evenings at 7 p.m. The schedule won't change for the release of the audio podcast. That will still be the following week, but we'll make it official. And so anyone who, we know we have some people who have some challenges just to get on, because it is the middle of their day on a Tuesday. So maybe hopefully this can help anybody who wants to get on to come on and join us, it's a little more convenient. Now, part 2 is my end of every show spiel, and that is about MSP Unplugged. And just again asking everyone to, well, reiterating, we're in the stage now where we're going to start. We've made a lot of decisions. We're starting to post. Where you'll see more changes being posted on the website about speakers, about topics, about vendors, and so forth. But we are still, and we'll, to the day before the show starts, going to always want your input. So I continue to stress to everyone: questions, comments, concerns, suggestions, please email us, info@mspunplugged.com or rick@mspunplugged.com. Just let us know your thoughts, your feelings, what you'd like to see, what you wouldn't like to see. Again, the goal here is to make this, to improve upon every show, to improve upon our experience. Again, I know Damon John's probably going to, be looking for some royalties, but I'll say this again: TechCon is for us and by us. So I urge everyone to just reach out and let us know, anything you got to offer, to add, that we could, do our best to implement or try to make happen.
Sounds good. Now I got to find my old FUBU shirt.
I'm gonna wear one week.
But yeah, exactly like what Rick mentioned. We will be moving the show officially Tuesdays. It will be 6 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Eastern. Thursdays will probably still stay the same. And exactly that. I think that, the main issue we've always had with this show is two things. One, picking a time that is beneficial to the entire audience to listen in live. Which again, we're still playing with this, where if live is still going to be a thing, or we're just going to release the episodes Tuesday and Thursdays, and it'll just be a Tuesday, Thursday podcast versus a Tuesday at a specific time or Thursday specific time. So more to come on that. Again, we're still trying to figure what's best for you. And then two, me and Rick are just dang gone busy. And we just got a lot of stuff going on. Rick's got a lot of marketing efforts that's bringing in a lot of new clients and new operational things that he's got to figure out. I'm all over the place, as everyone sees, and it's just, I got to figure it out. And during the days are starting to become a little bit harder, just with everything that we're doing, especially with planning TechCon and such. So we want to make sure we continue to give you something that is a consistent appearance, because we know we've kind of slacked on a couple of the Tech Talk Tuesdays over the last several weeks. So we're hoping to make this a more consistent basis. Even if we don't have a guest, we'll be able to provide some of our stories and what we're going through on an ongoing basis. And then also the ability for just making sure that this is an invitation for you all to listen in and really enjoy the show. So with all that being said, tune in every Tuesday and Thursday. Watch the video podcast on youtube.com/MSP Unplugged or facebook.com/MSP Unplugged. Like, subscribe, and hit that notification button to be notified whenever a new episode is available. You can also take us with you wherever you go on your favorite podcatcher app. We are on Amazon Music, Spotify, and on Apple Podcasts. As always, we thank you for listening, and we will see you next time on MSP Unplugged.